What's amazing too is he was with the WWF and it just slipped right through their fingers. I don't know that a lot of our listeners know this, but even according to Cage Match, his first matches would have been an NWA Wild Side that they have on record. But then he starts working in the WWE developmental Memphis Championship Wrestling before eventually getting called up. And he had matches that were first dark matches and then house shows. But even on Sunday Night Heat, he picked up a win in the year 2000 one over Haku. And he's actually with the company the summer that they're doing the invasion angle. He's a part of that, like that infamous Tacoma Monday Night Raw where everything changed. Well, he was working Rhino on the Sunday Night Heat taping. And I think that sort of flies under the radar of everybody. WWE had him under contract and just didn't see it. And the reader pages of the Observer, they just heaped praise on him. I read one here from David Jett, who says, when K Crush first came to Memphis as a WWF developmental wrestler, he wrestled as a heel. He came to the ring rapping to his own music. He had a home recording set up and had been writing rap songs prior to his signing. The fans hated him with a passion from day one. He had good heel heat, and he was always able to steal the show, both in the ring and in promos. For the fans who hated rap, he even did a country song, which was so funny it started to turn him face, and it'll happen one day in TNA. He was so good in the ring and on the mic that the fans ended up turning him face. I knew he'd be a big star in the WWF following the same pattern. Well, they missed the first part of the successful formula. The idea they missed out on K-Crush always boggled the mind. And Dave Meltzer, even reviewing a match here early in TNA, says the WWF missed the ball on Lynn and K-Crush. Maybe Lynn couldn't have been a top guy, but he makes everyone look better. Did everyone know right away, boy, the WWF bungled this one?
Brian more or less said, hey, Jeff, he said, it's the system has screwed up. How in the hell they let this guy go? Politics and change. And you pointed out, I don't know if you meant to point it out, but the influx of all the WCW talent with the invasion.
Yeah.
You talk about a guy getting lost in the shuffle, and yes. I get it. I think Jim Ross would tell you today, yep, Ronnie was one I missed. But kind of rightly so, because he had, Jesus, how many WCW talent became available simply overnight? 50, 60, 70? I don't know. Maybe more than that. So that was the product. And look, Ronnie, the reality was he'd been in the business 2 years, 3 years. He maybe wasn't quite ready for that, but Road Dogg pitching him to me, he's like, Jeff, and I'm like, once I saw him, like, you ain't got to sell me on it. Yeah, that just the timing. And look, this is kind of certainly a life lesson for an upcoming talent. Timing is so important. When the door opens for you and when it closes for you, just stick to the grind. Cream always rises to the top.
So he debuts as K-Crush. Of course, that's in June. By July, as we head into August, he's going to change his name to The Truth. And maybe some of this was because Paul Pierce was on fire with the Boston Celtics at the time, and his nickname was The Truth. But either way, you guys dabble with some racial angles here. Again, this is when you guys are running largely the Asylum. So you're in deep in the Bible Belt. You're in the heart of Dixie in Nashville, Tennessee. And you're going to have an angle with Ron Killings and Monty Brown. And, Ron Killings is going to talk about in his racial diatribe that they, the white people, had been holding him back. And Monty Brown comes out and says, oh, you've got a bad attitude. And Truth calls him an Uncle Tom. And I think nowadays we know we're not going to do these sort of angles. But in 2002, do you remember anybody raising their hand and saying, I don't know if we should do this? Was it just a different time, or was there a discussion about it even back then?
Well, if I remember correctly, this is Ronnie. Look, man, we got to be real. And look, he wasn't the first talent, wasn't the last talent, but collectively as a group, as we're talking all this, they can be interpreted as, because he not bitter, not upset, but he in his mind was some ways, like any talent, was a little bit reeling that WWE let him go.
Yeah.
Like, all this. So they holding me down.
Okay.
Hey, this is WWE. And I look at him and I go, Ronnie, Now, come on. You know the world isn't going to interpret it, whether you believe that or not. And I'm not saying it's true or not true, but come on. But Ronnie was kind of trying to blur the lines and no, WWE. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So there was a little bit of that, Conrad, but I knew that, okay, we're kind of playing with a couple of different stories here. But with Monty there and Monty, you know, coming out and being quote unquote the company man, the TNA company man, it made for some good television. And those two guys going back and forth. And Conrad, I know, you know, we love our wrestling, but as Conrad would say, go out of your way if you want to watch two charismatic guys go at each other on the mic, because this is one of those deals than the Asylum days that, you know, whether it was, you know, I can just feel it at about 10 o'clock on this Wednesday night. So the show was from 7 to 9 when me and maybe Don West and Mike Tenay are talking about going through the show, what was good, what was bad. Everybody would unanimously say, my God, Monty Brown and Ron the Truth, did they tear the house down? Because their realism, authenticity, their intensity was so freaking good, man. Really, really good.
I don't know how we couldn't all just love what Ron has done. Let's talk about where we start to move him up a little bit. We've got him wrestling for the title fairly quickly against Ken Shamrock. Ricky Steamboat has been involved here. And of course, Killings is going to mention that, hey, they made you the Intercontinental Champion. That's a second class and second tier belt. You should have been the world champion. They didn't give you that opportunity. So we're trying to talk about that WWF title opportunity as part of the they.
Yep.
But we are going to have Ken Shamrock working with Truth. Ultimately, Shamrock is not going to be dropping the title. Why, as we think about, you know, when we're talking about having him challenged to be the first Black NWA champion in history, and I know that technically people would debate, well, the NWA belt is technically the WCW belt, whatever. When you're thinking about your early stable of wrestlers, Ken Shamrock, AJ Styles, Ron Killings, Scott Hall, I mean, you've got a lot of talent, a lot of name. Why did you think Shamrock and Killings? Was everybody just impressed with what they saw with Ron and thought, hey, it makes sense to do the title pitch, or is there something else? Because I'm just curious, because you do have so many other former WWF, WCW names that were established, which would make you think, well, they're probably going to do that. Is this the effective use of the established name? You try to take a guy like Shamrock, who does have that television name value, and rub him up against Killings in the hopes that Killings can level up?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're talking about August.
August of 2002 is when Ron wins the belt from Shamrock in 9 minutes and 18 seconds.
So if we go back in time, around July, mid-July, end of July is when we got the call that Health South was pulling out the funding.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is so much going on. One thing was for certain: Truth was great, was going to get better, was over. And I say this with all due respect: he was a drive and economical, like a lot of other folks that were in a driving area, and that could go from, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 hours within Nashville. Shamrock was San Diego. He was at a different stage in his life. We negotiated, one deal. And, you know, when you ask a guy to take a pay cut, there's some guys that will, yep, you can do that. Then there's other guys that you're a lot better off going in and shaking their hands and say, hey, Kenny, this has not turned out the way we thought it was going to. And so we're going to choose to kind of go in a different way, because our contracts nothing was guaranteed, but we did have a rate. And it was just a stage that, hey, Kenny, because of, you know, at this time, MMA was in a different spot, obviously coming off the hills. We've gone into that, founding the company, and Kenny was, you know, he had MMA appeal. He had, we'll call it WWF appeal. looked great, and could really put on a hell of a believable match, if you will. And we knew we were going to have our high flyers, and the different styles. But Kenny was going to be point on our world heavyweight title picture. Well, financing changed, the world got turned upside down, and so we said, all right, we got to look at different options. And my father, myself, others, it just came real apparent. All right, let's go this route and really pour the gas on this guy. And so Ronnie was, all signs pointed toward him. And so that's how the matchup originally came to be.
Don't we all love summer vacation, relaxing, laying out by the pool, barbecues, hitting the beach, doing, well, nothing? Well, how about a summer vacation from your house payments? With SaveWithConrad.com, you can do just that. Reduce your monthly payments by making the equity you built up in your home work for you. You can roll together those high interest rate credit cards into one lower monthly payment, and perhaps access some of that newfound equity to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. And how about this? You get to skip your next 2 house payments. That's right. You won't have to make your June or your July house payment. You're done until August 1st. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com. Let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. And did I mention we're offering a 3-year guarantee right now? That's right. That means if at any point interest rates improve over the next 3 years, you get a free refi. That's right. No new lender fees from us. So you get to save money now without wasting money later when the rates improve on a whole second set of closing costs. Why not go to SaveWithConrad.com and get a guarantee? Save money now and save money later with your friend in the mortgage business. That's me, Conrad Thompson at SaveWithConrad.com. Shoot me an email at Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com. Give us a call at 888-425-0105. Or get yourself a quick quote, even talk to a live person right now at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. Let's take a summer vacation from house payments at SaveWithConrad.com.